Welcome to Coffee and the Bull.
Roughly 9 to 10 people that were assigned to me at any given time. And one of the things that I learned is stupidity doesn't just go away.
Right.
Right. So I will give it to you so long as the problem has been fixed. By all means, stop bringing it up.
Right.
But,
if you keep buying dumb sports cars,
if you keep doing the same dumb thing, we're going to keep having the same conversation.
Right.
Like I remember there was one of the guys that we had, man. That dude could not drive in an emergency situation to save his life.
I swear.
And
if you hadn't caveated, I'm like, don't you call me out like that.
But it was one of the things where I want to say I had 3 different instances where he wrecked his car.
Okay, I know.
And I was just sitting there. I was like, we're having the same conversation over and over and over.
Right.
You cannot do this. And there's like we addressed everything from the legal things, what you can do in an emergency situation, what you can't do, and all this other stuff. Hey,
Right.
this is how you drive. This is the brake. It's okay to hit the brake pedal. And so it was like I addressed it every which way I could. And we were having the same conversation every single time. It's like it didn't take hold. So it might have been a communication issue. He might have been thinking, well, I was saying, hey, there's the brake. Make sure you don't hit that thing. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But it's one of the things where communication is a major hang up for people.
Yeah.
Because we so many times we don't want to. It may be that we don't want to know what's going on, or we don't want to dive in further than the surface words.
Yeah.
Because if I do that, I don't get to do what I want, right?
Right.
Or I've got to do something I may not want to do. In this case where hey, this guy's my friend. If I ask him, hey, how's it going? He's like, man, I'm good. Everybody, you could pick up on your friend's
those
language
context clues.
that hey, his body language and the the connotation that he's putting that out in. You can tell, hey, something's wrong. But if I go, hey man, how are you really doing? I may not be prepared for that, and I may want to go to Chili's after this, and whatever restaurant, or have something planned. But I might have to deal with the guy who's about to lose his emotion and start boo-hooing for the next 45 minutes.
Right.
And I've got to find a way to and so it's one of them things where sometimes we know there's clues there, but we purposely don't go.
Right.
And I'm giving secrets away right now. Like I know that a lot of guys are like, dude, shut up. Like I know she did not want me to do this, but I'm doing it anyway. Well, surprise, ladies. A lot of times we do pick up on the context clues,
but we're gonna do what we want because we don't like the tone you said.
So it's one of them things. But I think that communication is definitely something that that we've got to find a way to focus on, especially when it comes to our friends.
Well, I think that we ignore a lot of stuff too, and what I mean by that is you've got not only are men and women different in the way that we communicate, but every single person has a different way of communicating and understanding. And there's people that you can say, hey man, this is the brake, this is the gas. When your blinky woot woots are on, this is how you drive, and this is how you don't drive, and that's all they need. That one time, this is it. And then there's those other people that you're just like, man, I've explained this 50 different ways from Barney to Einstein, and you're just not connecting the dots here. And I'm sure there's a way to communicate to that person. You just didn't know what it was or how to get there. And that's not a fault of your own. That's just, we're different people. We communicate and we understand and learn differently. And so one of the biggest takeaways that I ever had from any relationship I've ever been in was, if I notice that every conversation is an argument or a challenge, that's not the person I need to be with, because I'm not an argumentative person in a sense, in a romantic sense. Friends, guys, work, all that, I'll argue all day, especially if I'm right.
It depends on what the argument's over.
Right. If I know what I'm talking about, I'm going to argue all day, with the exception of a romantic relationship, because I don't want to argue with that person. You know what I mean? I want that person to be where I'm at peace, not so much this is where I stand and you're going to get on the boat with me or you're not, but I want to have a conversation with them that's open, and I can express myself without fear of judgment or fear of something coming up later and be rubbed in my face. But I also know in conversations, and guys, we know within the first few minutes of talking to somebody, I like this person or I don't like this person. It's an immediate thing. It's just like when, and I don't know if you and your wife have ever dealt with this, but I know that with one of my exes, she would have several people from her past randomly message her through Facebook or Snapchat or whatever, and number one, if she didn't tell me about it, then she already knows that that person's up to no good. But if I found out, or if she did tell me, I would immediately know they're communicating with you on bad pretenses. They're trying to intervene into the relationship. And so, guys, we know that. We pick up on these clues from other men rather quickly.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, we're blind to women when we're having conversations
Right.
with them, those context clues. So I think it's a part of human nature that we're like dumb and oblivious to it.
Well, I think what the takeaway from that needs to be, you know, we understand what our friends are telling us.
Right.
Whether you understand that when one of your friends tells you, hey, it's a good day, or you could tell whether they're having a good day. You could tell whether they're having a bad day or they're distracted, or whatever. When you can pick up on that and you don't dive further in, you're being
Right.
a bad friend. Let me be clear about that.
Yeah.
If you pick up that, hey, your friend is stressed, and that he's got different things going on, he's not carrying on in the conversation like he normally would,
Right.
and you don't take a moment to go a little, because it may be, hey, he's in the middle of a sentence, you're on the phone. Like, I can tell when you're in the middle of playing a game while we're on the phone, and it aggravates the shit out of me.
I know.
And so that's why I was like, I'll just go ahead and hang up. Because sometimes they're distracted, but sometimes they're not distracted by something in front of them. They're distracted with something going on in their brain. Whether
Right.
it's hey, I've got this bill coming due, or I've got this issue at home. I know we're going to have World War III when I get home.
Right.
Hey, I messed up. I've been in that boat where I knew I was going home. I knew we were having a fight, and I knew I was the reason for that fight. 100%.
Right.
It was me and only me, and there are times where our friends are in that spot, and if you don't take the moment to check on them, say, hey man, what's actually going on, when you pick up that, hey, there's a problem, then you're being a bad friend. That's
Right.
just all it is. And I'm not saying that as as a position of superiority to if you don't do that. I've been in that boat. We've got the
We
phone
all
call.
have.
We've got the phone call from friends or family members of friends who said, hey, look, this is what happened. And they check out, or and it takes a moment where we look around, and especially to take it from the standpoint, and the main driving force of why we did this podcast was because we saw that, hey, guys are having mental battles and they're losing that battle.
Right.
Whether it be self-destruction, they decide to take their life, or they decide to walk away from their family, or they just go off the rails. Everybody wants to go, man, he just lost his mind. And
Right.
we'll talk crap about him, but we don't ever actually, we didn't actually extend anything. We didn't mind bringing them a six pack, and while they were struggling with alcohol,
Right.
oh, let's go have a Friday night, and you didn't realize that, hey, if every Friday night he's getting blackout drunk, he's probably got a dependency
Right.
issue. And so there's a lot of times where we have these issues where that guys are going through, and we know it, but we don't do anything about it. And then when something happens, we want to cry foul, and we want
Right.
to we want to do this.
We want to be angry at something.
If I'd have known this was going on, then I would have tried to help out. I mean, I just didn't pick up on it. Well, a lot of times you probably did. If
Right.
you really want to be honest, we don't like admitting that.
Yeah.
If you really want to be honest, we pick up on what's going on with our friends, and when we decide, hey, I'm not going to follow up on it, you're not that you're responsible for what they do, but you could have done something and you didn't.
Right.
And so sometimes all they need is somebody to listen to them, to say, hey, you were in the wrong. Because I know there was an instance a couple times in my marriage where, again, I was the reason we were going to have a fight.
Yep.
I knew I was wrong. I was in the wrong. There was no misconstruing it. I was in the wrong. She was hurt. She was a victim, and there was going to be hell to pay when I made it home. I didn't need anybody to be like, nah, she's stupid. Don't worry about it. You look, there's a million fish in the sea.
Right.
I didn't need that. I needed somebody to be like, hey, you messed up. Don't do it again.
Right.
She means this, whatever she means to you, you need to protect that, or whatever, and so it's one of those things where, you don't have to take your boy's side, and that's
Right.
what we get a lot of times. The joke about the girlfriend calls the best friend's phone,
Right.
hey, where's Johnny at or whatever? Oh, he's here with me or whatever.
On the couch.
Yeah, and the whole time he's sitting there with the girlfriend. The girlfriend's just checking see if Johnny's going to lie for him or not,
Right.
or the friend's going to lie for Johnny or not. So it's one of the things where, as a true friend, sometimes you have to tell your friends that, hey, they're in the wrong.
Right.
You have to say, hey, look, you're about to take a butt chewing. It's about to suck for you, but you're going to get through it. And this is how you keep it from happening again.
Right.
And
Stamp your name on it.
It
Own
develops accountability. And
Right.
I think that's one of the things. Moving on to the next section, I think that's one of the things that the older generation can start passing down to the
Right.
to the guys who are up and coming. Is a little bit of accountability.
And that's something that we had talked about, was because like you pick up on the way that I speak to my kids when I'm not okay, because I have a different way of talking to the kids, and when there's a lot going on and I'm getting stressed out, I know you sense it and you pick up
Right.
on it. And so two of the things that happened today was I had a lot going on in my brain. I'm on the phone with you. I've got my son in the truck. And he is a good kid. He's not, that rebellious hellmaker, that wants to go out and do all those sorts of craziness. But he can be a handful sometimes. And like I said, I had Mike on the phone. I had him in the truck. I had text messages going like crazy about some issues going on with my son. My son just trying to be a kid, trying to be involved, because I treat him like an adult. I talk to him like an adult. Obviously I don't let him smoke, drink, and, do grown-up things, but I don't talk to him like he's 8 years old. I talk to him like he's an adult. I want him to be able to articulate himself. And there was just a moment where I was like, bro, stop. Just close your mouth. Stop being rude. Stop interrupting me. You're being really rude right now. I just want you to sit there and be quiet until we get the truck parked, and then you can go inside. And I knew in that moment that would have been light compared to what my dad would have done had I done the same thing. Thank God they didn't have like phones in the trucks when I was growing up. But it was also a moment where my dad, he probably would have popped me in the back of the head if I had done the things that my son was doing. I try to get away from that. And with him, I try to go that extra step and be like, hey, bro, I'm not mad at you. Understand there's a lot going on around that you don't know about, that you're not a part of. I love you, but you're being rude and you're interrupting, and I need you to stop.
Right.
And that was enough for him to understand that while he was making a mistake, he wasn't making a mistake to the point that he was actually in trouble. He just needed a little reality, verbally, to say, hey, knock it off. You're pushing too far. Where when I was growing up, that was almost an immediate, like, you're going to get popped, you're going to get, chewed out.
Right.
Daddy's going to be up your ass whether you like it or not, and it's going to hurt for a while. And so I know as a parent, I try to change with my son, but at the same time, my daughter is tapping on the window, making obnoxious noises while we're outside talking, and getting the dog to get up on the window. And all it took was me slapping the window going, knock it off. I didn't need to follow that up with a conversation. I didn't need to go to my daughter and hold her and tell her it's okay. Because like we discussed, there's times in their lives when they're going to get coddled. They're going to get extra love and extra baby and being told everything's okay, they're pretty, and have a good day. There's times in your child's life where as a dad, we have to say enough's enough. And we have to be that firm hand and that discipline and take it to a level that they're not prepared for, or maybe they haven't experienced yet. But everybody around you, this new age, softer approach to parenting, you're depriving your child of a real life lesson. Right. That your boss is going to walk in and say, you're fired, go home. There's not going to be a basket. There's not going to be a get well soon card.
There's not going to be a, hey, are you okay?
Right.
Or any of that. You just get a...
Yeah, you're fired. Get out. You don't pay your rent or your mortgage or whatever. The landlord or the bank isn't going to come in and say, hey, we're going to give you 6 months. Go ahead and find a new place. No, it's, hey, get your stuff and get out.
Take a couple moments and find out who you really are.
Right.
It's not a Hallmark movie.
Right.
You don't get that opportunity.
You ain't going to win in the end. And so as parents, people on the outside would have seen that as aggressive parenting or whatever, and it's because I believe everyone hyper focuses on things that they can condemn and say, oh, I'm better than them at this. Let me give them my 2 cents. I don't need your 2 cents. But nobody's going to come back later and be like, well, what about those times at night, when your daughter has a nightmare and you're sitting there at 2 a.m. holding her like a baby at 6 years old because she had a nightmare, or your son comes in at 7:30 in the morning, wakes you up before it was probably like 6:30, but he wakes you up before he's got to get ready for school, and he's like, hey, I got up early, and instead of going and playing video games or watching TV, I just snuggled up with you because I want to spend some extra moment. People aren't going to see that. They're going to see those outlashes and those things. And so it's these moments that we've got to teach our kids that importance of communication, when it's okay to be abrupt and just say, stop. And then there's times where it's like, you got to teach them to read those signs, that if I'm repeatedly telling you in a stern voice to knock it off, and now we're at a point where I've got to stop what I'm doing in the middle of the road and get your full attention, he's learning, maybe not directly but indirectly, the context clues of reading his dad to know that, okay, I can hear in dad's tone of voice, I can see that dad's hands are busy. And so we've got to, like we've said in many episodes, us as men have got to pass on to these younger generations of men, or who will become men, that communication is okay, feelings are okay, emotions are okay. There's got to be a time and a place for them. But not only is it okay for us to express them, it's okay for us to ask other men about them. Obviously, you probably don't want to go up to the guy, who rode in on a Harley covered in tattoos, and looks like he's done 10 to 15 in a prison. Are you feeling okay, buddy? But at the same time, he might be the guy you want to go ask. Maybe he's having a rough day. I don't know. But we've got to start, pushing that out there to our kids, and especially our sons, that asking for help is not the end of the world. This isn't the 1950s when dad doesn't ask for directions and, he's not lost and he's going to get there. We were lost. They were lost. And that's, again, back to our drive and communication and things of that note. The goal is to change the mold and break the mold for our sons coming up in this world, so that we don't have men that are on either side of that spectrum, where it's, the alpha male, I don't talk about this, and I bottle everything up, and then 10 years down the road he's checked out, or the complete opposite, where it's all they do is cry, and they're so emotionally broken that they can't succeed at anything because they're expecting somebody to come hold their hand and say, it's okay, little buddy, let me do this for you. And so that's the goal. That's where we're at. That's why we do the podcast, so that we can decrease, even if it's by one, that number of people that check out, but two, to educate and show a different side of men, that sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down, but we've got to find a balance, and we've got to get that change in our brain and change in our pattern, you know?
So I know one of the things that happened for me, I just started my career in law enforcement, and I want to say I was maybe 2-3 weeks in, and I'd been riding with a guy. He wound up becoming one of my mentors in law enforcement, but a lot of this stuff was applicable, in life scenarios. And this is a dumb story, but me and him still laugh about it, because like in high school and stuff, I was a relatively athletic person. Like I played baseball, in gym class, played basketball all the time. Like I didn't have.
I noticed you didn't mention golf.
Do what?
I noticed you didn't mention your golfing experiences.
And golf too. Hey, golf can be a very athletic sport. That being said, running was never my strong suit. Like if I had a purpose to run, I could do it. That being, but I was not a track star by any means. Like you was not going to get me to take in. Go run 3 or 4 miles just
for no
just
reason.
To do it. Like,
right.
There's a reason for it. I'll do that on a basketball, or at the time I would do that on a basketball court, back and forth, chasing a bouncing ball. But I wouldn't do it, just for just for the sake of doing it. Well, obviously, as I got older, much like everybody else in history,
right,
my desire to go running has not increased, and so
If anything, it magically decreased more.
Somehow it went down. You know? But I'm sitting there, and we had to do a physical fitness test. You know?
Right.
And so they had the entire departments out there, or a section of the departments out there, and me and Scott are going. And Scott was. He's going to be mad at me. I'm going to misquote this. I want to say he was like 50, 55 years old at the time. You know,